Welcome back. We're going to be talking about Solana, XRP, and Ethereum. These in 2025 are considered legacy chains, and a lot of people are asking, are these still good investments? Well, I'm going to give you guys my opinion, my analysis, and we're going to go over some things like the Solana founder giving his opinion on Ethereum and XRP. We're also going to be talking about Solana and the expansion of that ecosystem, and really the billionaires are pumping billions into Solana, especially after the whole meme coin debacle at the beginning of 2025. Solana is kind of on shaky ground if it can maintain its top 10 status. Meanwhile, Ethereum, where we are entering the middle of 2025, Ethereum hasn't even reached its all-time record high, and this leaves many people very bearish about Ethereum, saying that Ethereum's reign is over and it's never going to maintain its top 2 position. Well, I don't know whether that's going to happen or not, but we're going to be discussing it in today's video. So make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, give the video a free thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. I upload almost every single day. I'd love to hear you guys' feedback down below in the comments. And if there's any other videos you guys want to hear or discuss, let me know in the comments below. Before we get to the XRP and Ethereum and Solana, let's start with Ethereum, because now Grayscale is pushing the SEC to approve Ethereum ETF staking, citing $61 million in losses. Now, as you guys know, Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs were approved, but they did not approve the staking mechanism within these ETFs. And we know that the previous SEC administration basically called staking a security. I don't even understand how that is possible when it's a mechanism within the technology. So how can a mechanism in the technology be a security? Anyway, a lot of what the previous SEC did not make sense, but we're in a different world now, right? We have a new pro-crypto president, pro-crypto SEC chair. The SEC is currently actively working to create clear rules of the road. And hopefully we're gonna have stablecoin legislation as well. And so this push is pushing, and why, like, let's back up. Why do people want staking? Yield. Right? They want to make money on their coins. They want to make passive income. And traditionally, people put their money in the stock market and they make quote unquote passive income in the stock market, 7 to 12% a year on average. But people in crypto, they want the appreciation of the coin, but they also want staking, because now they can earn coins while they're holding their investment that they believe is going to go up over the course of time if the kind of supply-demand metrics and continual devaluation of the dollar occurs. Well, based on those metrics, yeah, the price of crypto should go up. And so whether the SEC approves this or not, I believe that they will. We also just heard that Coinbase is going to be starting a yield generation program for Bitcoin, where you can earn up to 4 to 8%, at least on an institutional level. You can earn 4 to 8% on your Bitcoin holdings. And so there's so many more mechanisms getting put into place to earn on your crypto. And not only are people like you and I going to like this, but the institutions are going to like this as well, because now they're not only earning yield, they're holding an appreciating asset while everything else around them depreciates, and potentially appreciates at a much faster pace, as the adoption curve is still in the early cycles compared to where stocks are. We know stock market is owned like 20% of the market is owned, no, 80% of the market is owned by 20% of people who are in the markets. So most of the market is essentially controlled. Now, some people say that crypto is essentially controlled also, and some of the coins are highly distributed with the founders. But when you look at like coins like Bitcoin and Ethereum, a lot of the coins have been distributed. Yes, Vitalik still has a large quantity of Ethereum, but most of the coins in the network are not in his control. So yes, I do think that we're going to see this getting approved. And again, yield generating products is going to cause more people to pump their money in. That doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to stay at sustained high levels of the price, but it means that the buying could push the price up and bring us to much higher levels. And that goes to the question in this video. Are Solana, XRP, and Ethereum still good investments? Well, now we're seeing researchers over at the Ethereum team proposing scaling Ethereum gas limit by 100x over 4 years. And this is another indicator of where the not only the market, but the ecosystem of Ethereum is going, because we don't just have to look at the price of the coin and how many people want to buy the coin. We also have to look at, is there active development within the ecosystem? Are there actual developers on one side of proposals and also on another side of proposals continuing to challenge the status quo of these ecosystems, which is needed, because if you don't challenge the status quo, you get left behind. Because remember, all of the new blockchains, Sui blockchain, Say blockchain, um, which other ones in the top 50? It's very hard for them to enter the top 50. Aptos, this is a newer blockchain. These new blockchains have more technology than the legacy chains, just because they're launching with the technology that the legacy chains are trying to achieve. And so when we see the continual growth and research, this is important, because if we don't have this, the blockchains just become stagnant and they can't keep up and they will lose value in users over time. We've seen this happening with, I mean, even if you just take Cardano, for example, Cardano has lost some of their projects that they funded the development of. They lost those projects to Base because Base was cheaper, faster, and more people used it. And so Cardano, that was a big issue for Cardano, because the ecosystem, the holders, they don't want to pay for the development of ecosystems that are just going to go move on to other technologies, right? So anyway, that was a kind of a side tangent, but Ethereum is definitely continuing to develop. The Ethereum's mainnet gas limit could theoretically grow 100x and reach 2,000 transactions per second under a new Ethereum improvement proposal put forth by an Ethereum Foundation researcher. This researcher, who had the blockchain's dank sharding data storage solution named after him, put forward this proposal, which would introduce what's called the deterministic gas limit growth schedule, which would start around June 1. The proposal would gradually increase the gas limit by a factor of 10 for roughly 2 years, or 164,000 epochs, when one final tenfold increase would occur. Clients would need to vote on the proposal for it to take effect. He said, by introducing a predictable exponential growth pattern as a client default, this Ethereum improvement proposal encourages a sustainable and transparent gas limit trajectory aligned with expected advancements in hardware and protocol efficiency. Now, keep in mind, currently, Ethereum can occasionally reach up to 20 transactions per second in block denominated by simple transactions, but this 100x could increase this theoretical Ethereum transactions per second to 2,000. And as we know, Ethereum has gotten a lot of criticism about their layer twos, because people in other ecosystems say, well, we shouldn't have a layer two. Ethereum as the base layer should be able to process all these transactions at a very fast pace with no issues. Meanwhile, look at Solana in its history, continuing to go down over and over and over because of too much transaction throughput. And so having a layer two, one step removed from the base layer, I believe it adds more security to the base layer by having the layer twos. So yeah, we'll see kind of what happens with this. But either way, I do believe that the transactions per second need to increase on the base layer over time. Otherwise, the gas fees get way ridiculous. It takes days or hours to put through transactions, and that is not a viable solution. But the point of this is that the developers and researchers are still working on Ethereum. Ethereum's Fusaka hard fork is set for late 2025 with major EVM changes. Now remember, we are expecting the Pectra upgrade to be going into effect in or around May of 2025, which is basically when I'm recording this video. Then we're going to be having this Fusaka hard fork expected for Q3 or Q4 of 2025, and this will likely introduce controversial EVM object format upgrade. And so this is going to be taking place in the second half of the year. In a post, the Ethereum Foundation, a co-executive director, said that the organization is aiming to deploy this Q3 or Q4. Still, the exact rollout schedule has not yet been decided. But as we've seen in previous cycles, you know when they're going to hard fork the chain? At the top of the market. at the top of the market. This is what they do. Not just Ethereum. I'm saying crypto in general. Crypto in general, they have announcements. There's a lot of coins here that I'm like, I want to analyze their growth and where they are, but none of these projects are releasing anything. Think about it. Some of them have tested launches just to kind of see what the sentiment is or where if the price is going to go up. And when it doesn't, they just pull back and stop talking about it. But during an uptrend, you're going to hear announcement after announcement after announcement after announcement. We're deploying this. We're launching this. We're going to do this. We're doing this. We're launching this. That is accelerant for the uptrend. And typically you see the prices go much higher as these announcements keep occurring. So typically, in my view, especially based on previous cycles, when Ethereum hard forks, top of the market. I could be wrong on that. But anyway, Ethereum's co-founder reveals the key difference between Ethereum and XRP. Solana co-founder. I think I said that. So let's get into it. So Anatoly Yakovenko, who is the co-founder of Solana, did not mince his words, saying Ethereum will not be able to follow the playbook of XRP. In a striking post, he said, just because something irrational happens in the world does not mean it will happen to you or that you can make it happen. Whoa. Shots fired. All right, so what is this post? Well, it was part of this whole chain at the end of April 2025 from this guy, John, who is the co-founder of DBA Crypto, co-host of that podcast. And he said, I see this all the time. Bitcoin, XRP, etc. is valuable and they don't have fundamentals. So why should ETH need it? It's illogical and needs to die. Imagine Bezos on an earnings call saying, yeah, GameStop and AMC stock ripped without earnings, so we don't need to make money either. And this was in response to this post from this guy who's the explainer at Columbia Business. And he said, I enjoy the chopping block with this guy, but it remains maddening to me how people keep ascribing the underperformance of Ethereum to poor chain design and falling fundamentals without addressing XRP. Not only is XRP the third most valuable chain with a higher fully diluted value than Ethereum, it's also the best performing major coin over the past 6 months, far better than Bitcoin. He says, so if you think that coins now trade on fundamentals, then you need to explain why Ripple has the strongest fundamentals in crypto, stronger than Bitcoin or Solana. Unlike other dubious coins like Ondo, he says, we can't ascribe to the strength of XRP to low float or insider manipulation. It's literally one of the most accessible and liquid coins out there, and the market keeps pricing it as being highly valuable, closer to its all-time high than Solana. This, despite the fact that a corporation owns half the supply and can mint infinite more if it wanted to. So please tell, I guess, what is it about RippleNet that is so well designed, capturing value for token holders? Or is it just that the crypto markets remain deeply immature and narrative, sentiment, vibes, and scammy TikTok key opinion leaders impact price more than fundamentals or chain design? Well, listen, if you guys watch my videos, I kind of agree with what he's saying. There is no world that we live in that XRP is at 227 and it's going to continue to go up when Ripple has been selling, they are continuing to sell, and they have literally said, we are not going to stop selling. And they don't have 50% of the supply. They have about 37%. They have 37 billion coins still. And so everybody's anticipating an Ethereum ETF and jumping up and down for it. But my thing is, well, if an XRP ETF does happen and BlackRock starts buying billions of XRP, who do you think they're buying it from? They're buying it from Ripple. And so the price will probably go up, but that's going to be based purely on speculation. And so that run up is going to reverse and be a corrective run down because they're not buying the coins from you. They're buying it from Ripple. And these coins are not on the open market, right? And so they are inflating the circulating supply, which impacts the market cap. And so anyway, this guy John said, I see it all the time in Ethereum, Bitcoin, XRP, etc. is valuable and they don't have fundamentals. So why should ETH need it? I mean, I don't know who thinks that Ethereum doesn't have fundamentals. Ethereum is the number one DeFi platform in the world, the number one layer 2 platform, the number 2 crypto in the world, the number one DeFi ecosystem, the number one staking mechanism, the number one altcoin outside of Bitcoin that has institutional usage, adoption, and holdings. Solana is doing it, but what do we have from Solana? Meme coins. Anyway, he continued saying they're different assets, XRP and Ethereum, with unique features like strong digital gold meme, good stories, strong retailer trader community that your asset apparently doesn't have, meaning Ethereum. Unique outliers do not mean that these rules apply to everyone. This is just denial excuse to ignore problems. So the guy who wrote that original post, he responded, "What problem am I ignoring?" And this is when the Solana co-founder stepped in. He said, just because something irrational happens in the world, it doesn't imply that it will also happen to you or you can make it happen. If you can't model XRP or Bitcoin why these two have value, you can't engineer it and therefore you can't compete with it. There's no second best, as they say. Now, this is very interesting because it is kind of in line with my thesis, right? Or at least what he's saying is in line with what my thesis is. My thesis is that XRP is overvalued and that, XRP has no interoperability. Currently, it has no stable coins on it. There's no interoperability with USDC or Tether. And by the way, it doesn't look like they're trying to do that either. That's why they're creating their own stable coin. RippleNet doesn't necessarily need to use XRP, and they're not using it. They're selling the XRP Ripple. Ripple doesn't have DeFi on it, right? No interoperability or cross-chain bridges, no connectivity to Chainlink or Ethereum, and so on and so forth. So that's my thesis, that this is overvalued. And the people who are very bullish on it, it is overvalued. And what Anatoly is saying is like, if you can't figure out and you can't model, like we know why Bitcoin is considered digital gold. We know why people are looking at it as a store of value. We know it's a limited supply. Granted, some of these other coins are limited supply too, but this is the granddaddy. This is the first crypto. It's really the only crypto left on proof of work consensus mechanism, and so on and so forth. So we know the narrative. We understand why Bitcoin is going up. We understand why Bitcoin has maximalists and developers and a community. But we can't really model exactly why XRP is at the valuation that it is based on all those factors that we talked about, right? Just saying, well, eventually it's going to be the currency of the world. It's like, it doesn't seem that way right now, at least. Maybe it will become that. But if we can't model it, you can't compete with it. So trying to compare XRP to Ethereum, it's not a valid comparison because yes, Ethereum has the most usage, has the most interconnectivity, has the most layer 2s, has the most projects built on it. But apparently, you don't need all of that, right? Because, I mean, the XRP market cap is half of what Ethereum is. Solana is almost there as well. And again, Solana, what do they have to show us for the last couple of years? The only thing that we've seen is meme coins so far. And so just because I can't figure out why Solana is at the valuation that it is, and just because I believe that it's going to go down in valuation just based on the fact that I can't figure it out why people like it so much, it actually means that it's probably going to go much, much higher. But I can't model it. I can't chart it. I can't analyze this to put it in my portfolio because I don't know why it's going up. XRP. The models show that the XRP price will have more sell pressure and therefore go down. But meanwhile, the price has really just gone up. Anyway, continuing on. So the original poster said, thanks. I've been telling people about the value of Bitcoin since 2013. Remarkably, the biggest reason people disagree with me is due to the misapplication of a legacy notion of what makes something valuable. And so effectively what he's saying here is basically the same thing Anatoly would say, is that people didn't invest in Bitcoin because they didn't see it as valuable. They couldn't apply, right, what a mutual fund is, or a dividend paying stock, or owning gold or real estate. Like, they couldn't compare Bitcoin to it. So they just said it's not valuable or it's overvalued. And you, who are in the ecosystem, who do understand the metrics behind Bitcoin and believe in the thesis, and the play that Bitcoin is undergoing, you see the value in it. There's still probably people in your life that don't see the value in it, right? There's people outside of your life that don't see the value in it. And so Anatoly said, if you can't rationally model it, then you can't recreate it somewhere else, like Ethereum. It's very unlikely to work. So again, I don't think that he's necessarily talking crap about Ethereum or XRP or really Solana. I think he's just laying out the groundwork that just because you can't rationalize or model the bullishness and the community's bullishness doesn't mean that it's not going higher. And this is something that in crypto is very unique, because listen, people will say to me all the time, Cryptoviser, you were wrong on Solana. You were wrong on Solana. It's like, yeah, I mean, I tell you guys, I'm going to be wrong on a lot of things that I predict, right? It's not about being right 100% of the time. And if you're making investment choices based on what I say, I don't know why you're doing that. This is not financial advice. These are my opinions. Things may change. By the time you're watching this, the information may not be up to date. You have to do your own research. But yes, I was wrong on Solana, but I didn't own Solana. So I don't have any skin in the game. So I don't care either way. There's people who look at that and say, well, Cryptoviser, you missed out. You should be pissed off that you missed out on that you didn't have it. It's like, that's not how I invest, right? I mean, you could say that for any asset that you don't invest in that goes up a little bit. You could say, well, don't you feel bad about that? You could have made making money. It's like, no, like that's not what I bet on, right? It's like you go to the casino and you're like, well, if you would have played on that machine, maybe you could have won. It's like, yeah, but I could have lost as well. And then they go on, put their money in, then they win $10 and they're like, you see, I won. It's like, good for you. Good for you. That's your portfolio. That's not my portfolio. I'm happy for you. But yeah, like that's the way that you have to look at these markets. You may not understand why XRP is going higher. You may not understand why Ethereum is going lower. But that doesn't mean that it's not going to continue in that direction, or that maybe your thesis is wrong. Maybe it's actually correct. It's just taking a longer time to get there. But we will see. We will see. I mean, this goes back to the question, are these investable? Is Ethereum investable? Is Solana investable? Is XRP investable? Well, let's move on to Solana for a quick minute, because DeFi Development Corporation, which was previously called Janover, is seeking $1 billion to boost their Solana investments and expand their treasury. And so we covered this recently. Janover was basically a publicly traded company trading for like $4 on the open market, $4 or $5. The market cap was like under $10 million. And then some former Solana team members or developers decided to buy the company effectively. And so they bought the company and they started buying Solana for the balance sheet. And we've seen the price 10x. This is another example. It's like, well, you didn't buy this. You could have 10x your money. It's like, yeah, but I could have also lost my money. Because is this company really worth $100 million when all they're doing is buying Solana at multi-year highs? I mean, I don't know. I mean, when I think about like what MicroStrategy is doing, what the new 21 company is going to be doing, Marathon Digital, all these companies buying and holding Bitcoin, even at the top of the market, very risky. I've said this about MicroStrategy for millennia on this channel. It is very risky what they're doing, continuing to buy the top of the market. But maybe it's going to work out. I don't understand how it's going to work out. We're in a bull market. We're at the top, meaning in a bear market, we're going to be probably lower. But they keep buying more Solana, and now they want to take out debt to buy more Solana. So the NASDAQ-listed firm, which was previously a real estate financing platform connected to commercial real estate lenders, announced plans in a registration statement filed with the SEC. The filing states that the funds, $1 billion, will be used for general corporate purposes, including Solana token acquisitions. According to the filing, they said Solana does not pay interest, but staking rewards can be earned on Solana. The ability to generate a return on investment from the net proceeds from this offering will depend on whether there is an appreciation of the value of Solana following the purchase of Solana with the net proceeds of the offering. The company also warned that fluctuations in the price could lead to it converting the tokens into cash at a value substantially below what they raised. So $1 billion, right? Let's just do the math here. I don't know what, let's actually look. Stakingrewards.com. This gives us a general understanding of where the staking numbers are. It may not be 100% accurate, but it's pretty damn close. And we're just trying to get a number, right? Where Solana rewards are at. So Solana reward currently is about 8.3%. You guys can see that on the screen here. This is Staking Rewards website. So let's just bring this down to 6 or 7%, right? Just to do the math. Let's say 6%, just to be really conservative. So they buy $1 billion, right? And they're going to, that's 100 million, that's 1 billion. And let's say they're going to get 6% a year. After, fees and all of that, let's just say 6%. That means that they would get $60 million per year. And so that is a business thesis and a business strategy if it works out. And this could boost the Solana ecosystem because, we may see other companies try to follow, especially in a bear market. But it is risky, guys. It is risky in a bull market. But if they're able to pull this off, and they're able to not only raise $1 billion, but then purchase Solana for $1 billion worth of Solana, and then they're getting 6%, they're going to be getting $60 million. So even if they use 30 million of that, half of that to pay back some of their loans, or even if they use $50 million of that to pay back their loan and 10 million for operating expenses, it's still a lot of money. And now, granted, it is a publicly traded company, so all of this is going to be transparent, and it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. If it does play out well, this may be the play, Janover versus Solana. But I always go back to with MicroStrategy. Do I own MicroStrategy or do I own the Bitcoin? So do I own the Janover company or do I own the Solana directly? That's a question you guys have to ask. Now, it is going to be, I think they're going to be having a new ticker name eventually because now they're DeFi Development Corp. But it's interesting, guys. I didn't think that this price of the stock was going to keep going up, but it has. And then SEP also, Cantor Equity Partners. This is the other company that is going to be merging with the new company that Jack Mallers is going to be running called 21, where they're going to be another Bitcoin acquisition company. This stock also, parabolic. We went from $10 all the way up to $30. We 3x'd in just a few days. You could see this parabolic move. And so when we start to see these moves in the market, in Janover, in Cantor Equity Partners, and this is all speculation. I did a whole separate video on why Cantor Equity Partners is not worth $30. But there's still going to be people buying at these prices. To me, this is toppish activity. And this tells me that we are entering the final phase of this bull market. But again, it goes back to the question, are Solana, XRP, and Ethereum investable? Well, I'm going to tell you guys my opinion, but I also want you guys to take into account what we just learned from the Solana co-founder. What we learned from the Solana co-founder is that just because I may not see value in the coin, or you may not see value in the coin, doesn't mean there's no value in the coin. And just because I see value in the coin and you may see value in the coin doesn't mean that there is actually value in the coin. And so for me, Ethereum hasn't reached its all-time record high. Number one alt platform. A lot of FUD and negativity against the coin and ecosystem right now. Meanwhile, they have two major upgrades planned for this year. Potential staking coming in the ETFs. Institutions are continuing to buy in the ETFs. So for me, Ethereum is still investable. It is still a good investment at this point. When we're talking about XRP, and again, these are my opinions. I'm not telling you what to do. This is not financial advice. Do your own research. Of course, I could be wrong. And I do have investments in some of these that we're talking about. Now, XRP, I've explained my concern about the risk and the risk of the over exuberance, right? The XRP army, they're already in massive, massive profit. And so they're looking for another pump, right? Maybe another 2 pumps. That way they can pull some of their money out, or maybe all of it. Because they know if the ETF gets approved, the price is not going up based on buying, because the buying is going to be buying from Ripple. We know this. And so how can the price actually go higher? It can, and maybe there are reasons why. But personally, I don't see it. There's too much risk there, downside risk for me to invest at this point in the cycle. That doesn't mean next year I'm not going to change my mind and say, yeah, now we're in a cycle where we're maybe at lower prices or we have different environment. Now it's time to buy. But for now, where we are in the cycle, 12 to 18 months after the Bitcoin halving, middle of 2025, not investable. And Solana's kind of another wild card. There's a lot of money being pumped in. There's a lot of development. There's a lot of backing from large institutions. There's a lot of this kind of MicroStrategy play going on here. And by the way, we're not seeing companies doing this with Ethereum. That could be a good thing, or that could be a bad thing. That could be a good thing because if MicroStrategy or Marathon Digital or Cantor Equity Partners, if there's issues as we enter a bear market where the price goes below their dollar cost average and they potentially have to sell, this could be catastrophic for the price of Bitcoin and pull us further into the bear market. Same thing can happen with Solana as they're buying Solana at these companies at potentially all-time record highs. I mean, we're 50% down from the all-time record high, so there is a little bit of cushion, but I remind you, we're still much higher than where we were in the depths of the bear market at $8. And Solana has not really provided anything this cycle just yet, besides meme coins, where XRP and Ethereum have a little bit more positive outlook. And so for me and my portfolio, right now, the only one of these three that are investable for me is Ethereum. That doesn't mean the other two are not good investments, because I obviously believe that Ripple is going to continue to grow and expand and hopefully bring along XRP with it, but that's not guaranteed. And there is no doubt in my mind that the Solana ecosystem is going to continue to grow and succeed. It's just a matter of whether it's done for this cycle, whether we'll have another pump this cycle. Because remember, Solana outperformed every other crypto this cycle so far, $8 to $260. No other major crypto has done that. And I don't know that we'll see that occur again with Solana. It could, but I don't know that this is something that is, from an investability standpoint now. But I do think that a lot of these other chains in the bear market are going to be very, very lucrative to purchase into. But we have to exit the bull market in profit to then buy in the bear market. You have to be able to do that. As I've explained, people are going to overtrade this market, and they're going to exit the bull run or enter the bear market with nothing. So this is why we have to really look for these top signals and understand, is this the time to invest? It doesn't mean that these coins are not going to succeed, but it's also, you have to look at your investment thesis and stick with it, right? Because let's say you hate Ethereum and you're like, I'm not buying into Ethereum. Everybody's saying that Ethereum is not going to survive and all of this. I'm going to buy into XRP. And then you buy in XRP and XRP stays the same and Ethereum triples overnight. You could get annoyed at yourself and pissed, or you could say, this is the investment decision that I made. I'm not going to FOMO now into Ethereum, because if you do that, what happens when people FOMO? The opposite of what they want to happen occurs. So if you FOMOed out of XRP into Ethereum, what do you think is going to happen? XRP is probably going to go higher and Ethereum is probably going to go lower, right? So you have to have a thesis and understand why you're choosing the coins or the stocks that you're choosing, and stick with it. Don't not change your mind based on new information, but be able to, stick with the volatility and not compare your asset to other assets. But anyway, that's kind of my opinion and my general thesis on where we are with XRP, Ethereum, and Solana. I'd love to hear what you guys think about my analysis, and if you think that I'm accurate or not. Let me know down below in the comments. Don't forget to give this video a free thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button. I'll see you when I see you, and crypto on.